and welcome to ckscast number 18. 18 of these things I've made so far. I don't know why I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it. Now, today I had an interesting situation. A friend of mine was talking about some meetings they were having at work and how these meetings were extremely unproductive with everybody talking and having chaos in this meeting, nothing getting done over a very small decision. Sip of coffee there helps out. I'm going to make a mukbang video sometime. But the interesting thing about this is, you know, in my life as a product manager over many years, and also before that, as a software developer, I've learned a lot about how organizations and groups of people function. And one of the things that tends to happen is because we want to like ourselves and we don't want to get rejected by the group think, because that's a primordial fear we have. Group rejection means being thrown out. It's the same fear of when you get on stage and nobody's laughing. It really gets into your soul, because that means, you know, maybe in medieval times, as you know, when we were tribes, or before medieval actually, if you got thrown out of the group, you're in big trouble. You had then no access to food, etc. So we tend to optimize to be nice. We want everyone to like us. We want the group to be happy. And these are all good things. It's mostly what we call, you know, like human nature and good human qualities. But actually, when it comes to getting stuff done within companies, often being able to do things is perpendicular at right angles to actually everybody being happy. And, you know, and this is an interesting thing. So, for example, you know, you might explain to a group of people your genius idea, hoping they'll all go, yeah, that's a brilliant idea, Harry. When in fact they go, like, for various reasons, they're like, this idea challenges the normal state of the group, therefore we're going to reject this idea. And, you know, and sometimes you might find that actually arguing for the opposite of what you want to happen will get everyone to go in the direction that you want them to go in. Now, you might be thinking, Harry, what you're telling us is evil, but I'm not the first person to think about this, guys. In fact, there's this fantastic guide written apparently by the CIA, which is the guide to how to sabotage meetings. Now, I'm not sure this was actually written by the CIA or not. It might have just been invented by someone who hated meetings so badly. They thought it'd be funny to say that the CIA wrote a guide, because that would be a more convincing way to convince people that meetings are a terrible idea. But let me read you a few little excerpts from this guide so you can have a look here. Google it. But for example, make speeches, you know, talk frequently and as possible at great length, illustrate your points with long anecdotes and accounts of personal experiences. Now, one thing is storytelling is very powerful, and the other thing is that wastes a ton of time, which leads to the next point of slow it down. Advocate caution, avoid haste. You can't make a quick decision, guys, let's face it, because, you know, you might make the wrong decision. Although in reality, we know that it's better to take decisions quickly and fail quickly, and then you can make a new decision. But anyway, let's ignore that. Where possible, refer all matters to committees of never fewer than 5 people for consideration, because 5 people guarantees you'll never have agreement, and that decision-making process will go on forever. Bring up relevant issues as frequently as possible. Like, I know we're talking about software development, but have we considered the effect that it's having on the environment? I don't know, we should probably think about being carbon neutral. Another thing is haggle over precise wordings, you know, like should we call it, should we use the terms like he, her, or should we talk about a more gender neutral, like less triggering form of communication? That would be a worthwhile thing to do to make sure that nothing ever gets done. Also, refer back to matters decided upon at the last meeting. Now, if you can pull this one off, you might be able to reopen a discussion that was had in the last meeting, completely sabotaging everything. And yeah, so this was apparently, I don't know if this is really true, this was the CIA's guide to how to prevent your enemies from getting anything done. And if you could send your people in to the ground level for, like, you know, your opponent is preparing for war, you grind them to a halt default, so they never get anything done. Now, that's an interesting thing because, you know, it's tricky sometimes to think about beyond like, okay, I want to do the right thing. But the thing that the experience I had when I was as a young man at the age of about 21, I think, I had a profound defining experience that affected me for life. Is I was an intern working at IBM. That's back when I was studying physics. And I got to spend this year at IBM. We were programming and doing stuff. And we had this office manager whose name was Martina. Now, Martina, I think, was about 36, 37, maybe even 40, which means she'd be 70 right now. Jesus, well, she's probably dead by now. And she had bright red hair and a temper to match it. She had a big alcohol problem. She would come into work often with a massive hangover. And I think she had an abusive husband, according to office gossip. So Martina was not a happy lady with a fiery temper, and there was nothing she liked more than to make the interns miserable. That was her way of like figuring out all her problems in life. And that's something that I've learned about people in general. They, you know, to break things down into simple generalizations, there's basically three types of people. The first type of person is the happy person. They're balanced, rounded. They just, you know, they're happy. Fine. That's very few people these days. Then you have type 2, and they're the self-destructive person. That would be more like me, where you have bad habits, drinking, smoking, not going to bed early, playing computer games until 4 a.m, all these kind of crazy things. And it's self-destructive habits. So if I'm not happy, I take it out on myself. But then you have the third type of person. The third type of person takes their shit out on other people. They basically take energy from others. And you can see this on school playgrounds. The little kid that's going around bullying everyone probably has asshole parents. So they come into school and take their energy out of the happy kids and make those kids miserable forever. And, you know, and it's an interesting, and Martina was exactly that. And Martina annoyed me so much that because I was powerless against her, I couldn't really figure out what the hell I could do to deal with Martina. And I'm like, I've got no skills, nothing to help me in this situation. And one of her favorite things was public humiliation. So she'd wait till there's a group meeting and then single you out for embarrassment and public shame. And it just it drove me crazy. I'm like, it's not true, but facts weren't the matter because she was a master of manipulating the group situation to her benefit, basically. The benefit was to humiliate us. And that was so triggering to me that I need to figure out ways in which I can avoid this happening again. Now, back then, we didn't really have like the cult of self-help books in the same way we do now in airports. But what we had was this book, Miyamoto Musashi's Guide to Japanese Sword Fighting, the Book of 5 Rings. And this is a book, technically it's about sword fighting. So it talks about all these different stances you can take as a Japanese sword fighter in response or to win a battle, a sword fight. And for example, if your opponent takes this powerful pose with the sword above his head, you might take this pose with the sword pointing down because it gives you ability to strike faster at your opponent's exposed front here. You know, and this was like high stakes stuff because you mess this up, you're dead. You got a sword in your gut. So, yeah, and I read this book, but what I took away from it, and that was the point, because it was a very popular business book at that point, is that there is no absolute concept of right or wrong. Now, I've spent most of my life as a software developer working with software developers, and software developers have this deluded belief that there is an absolute truth, because code and software tends to be absolutely true at some point or other. And, you know, but in the world of human beings, things don't work that way. And software developers frequently get this wrong because we say, but this is correct. And it's like, yeah, but you have a really annoying voice right now, which means no one's listening to you. And so what I got out of the Book of 5 Rings is that depending on the circumstances, the way that you deal with people needs to vary. Sometimes you could be very aggressive, and sometimes you could be very understanding and just soft and gentle. And, you know, in the like, where your goal is to get something done or to deal with someone's attack on you, or, you know, your crazy Irish woman who's making you miserable. So, you know, and so that went on, and I kind of absorbed that. And you know, and at the intern of 21, I read this book. I think when I went back to university for a year, I was reading this book. Fast forward a couple of years, and now I am a freelance contractor working at Virgin Atlantic down near Crawley in Sussex in England. And there was a bunch of us, like contractors and freelance guys all working there. And there was one particular guy, and you got to remember, this is also the time of Margaret Thatcher and the Conservatives, and who was that other? John Major was the other one. And there was this idea of the young conservative. And the young conservative was the young person that modeled themselves after being a conservative. We're all working there doing our consulting stuff. And one of the contractors is a guy called Gordon. And Gordon was a classic young conservative. He had the striped shirt, and he had and, you know, and I had no problem with Gordon. I'm like, okay, he's a bit of a twat, but whatever. I'll ignore him. But Gordon decided that he was going to give me shit. And he started doing it like, I think he just decided, I'm going to fuck with this guy. And, you know, and there'd be things where he'd start saying, yeah, well, Harry did this. And then, and I'm like, motherfucker, how dare, like, I've done nothing to you and you single me out. And he did it to me about 2 times. And I'm like, I've learned my lesson, because thanks to that Irish woman, I've read Miyamoto Musashi's guide to how to deal with this. And then, you know, I was just there. And what I discovered is that in, you know, the left part of my brain, or the right, I don't know, the part that doesn't analyze things, the part that uses intuition, something just popped into my brain. The song that had been a hit. And then one day Gordon is making fun of me in the office. I said, Gordon, by the way, what's that song? What's the song? And I could see Gordon had been bullied at school. And there was this hit song that had been going around a couple of years earlier. And the chorus went, but Gordon is a moron. Gordon is a moron. And everybody in the country was singing this song. Like, it was a huge hit. And the moment I started saying to him, but Gordon, what's that song? I could see in his face, no. And I said, what? Oh, yeah. Gordon is a moron. And he starts going, shut up. No, shut up. And, you know, and I sung that verse 2 or 3 times. And then he skulked away. One more time he came by and started kind of talking shit. And I just went, immediately shut up. It was fantastic. And you may say, Harry, you're an asshole. This guy started on me. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. I was minding my own business. That's my general philosophy. I don't fuck with people unless you fuck with me. And then, you know, and so, and this is the thing that I've also realized, there's something called the short karmic shock. And sometimes people need this. And I found that if I just let my intuition brew on something, I can find that button to press on someone where I go, bam, there you go, motherfucker. You fucked with me. There's your button. And, you know, and sometimes you got to do that in life. That's my general feeling. You know, the Christian way says, turn the other cheek. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, but sometimes you got to punch someone in the face for them to leave you alone. Okay, I'm not a fighter. I don't punch people in the face. I'm more of a thinker. And what I learned is Gordon is a moron. And the only way I can finish this episode is I need to show you a little bit of that song when it was played on Top of the Pops. Oh, and look, here we go. There's Jimmy Savile, look, making some young ladies feel awkward. Look, there he is, introducing some. 6, ladies, they cannot. Look at these three ladies, and he's like, there you go. Well, at some point, I'll do an episode on Jimmy Savile, Britain's #1 paedophile. Isn't that fantastic? And his connections to all kinds of powerful people. We'll get into that another time when I decide that I want to destroy and get the CIA and MI6 coming after me. Let's not do that. Let's go to the chorus of Gordon is a Moron. I can only play a little bit because I don't want to get a copyright strike. Let's hear it.
I know he's a moron.
Gordon is a moron. Gordon is a moron.
Gordon is a moron.
All right, that's enough of that. So, yeah, I hope this has been an insightful ckscast. Remember, Gordon, you're a fucking moron.